Hey guys, this is Mara and welcome back to my Art Break Life. For those of you who aren't subscribed or don't know me, my name is Mara and I'm a busy mom who cherishes her evening art breaks after the hustle and bustle of the day. Art is my therapy, self-care, and the way I fill my cup. I feel fulfilled when I create something that I'm proud of, whether it's with paint, graphite, or any medium that I'm into at the moment. Right now, I'm in a place of self-discovery as I haven't allowed myself to do art since college. So right now, I'm just enjoying the process of rediscovering different art mediums and learning new things. When I was in art school, I took many beginner-level art classes just like everyone else, which included things like life drawing, small-scale sculpture, watercolor, photography, and oil painting. I remember enjoying my time in the oil painting studio, but I hated how messy it was and the noxious smells from the thinners and all that. Plus, I never felt that I actually understood what I was doing or how oil paint was supposed to be used. We would have discussions about different artists and their styles, but never really got into how these artists did what they did or fully understood how they manipulated the oil paint to do what they wanted it to do. Plus, at this time, YouTube was in its infancy, so we didn't have these amazing content creators to draw inspiration or knowledge from as we do now. All we had back then were the professors, but there wasn't much guidance as far as showing us how to use the oil paint or different techniques, but more of just letting us paint, which can be good. The more you do it, the better you get, but I felt like whatever I was doing wasn't that great and I didn't know what I was doing wrong, nor did any teacher help or tell me what I could do better, even if I asked. I felt that everything I made was horrible, which it was. I also felt so lost not knowing how to fix it. But now, many years later, I finally decided to try it again. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but the chemicals are what held me back. Until I discovered these water-soluble oil paints from Winsor & Newton. I was browsing at my local stationery store and these paints were on sale. I picked them up thinking it was oil paint, but read water-soluble. This got me so excited because firstly, it was on sale, but then this also meant that I could try oil painting again without using any noxious thinners or chemicals that I didn't like. So what did I do? I bought the paints and then sat on it for months, really, like almost a year. My mind kept going back to my art school days and I realized I knew nothing about oil painting. What was I doing even thinking about buying these paints? Firstly, I didn't know what to paint. I was thinking I couldn't draw anything perfect enough or nice enough. Also, I was only taught to go straight into the canvas with paint, so I wasn't confident enough to pull that off. And then, what do you paint it on? I was only taught to use a stretched canvas, but what was worth painting on a canvas? And canvas seems so daunting because what do you do with a canvas once you're done? You put it on a wall. The intention is to mount it, but what do I want on my wall? And if I messed it up, the canvas would be wasted. So feeling defeated, what does anyone do nowadays for inspiration? You turn to YouTube. I wasn't really looking for oil painting tips, but just art channels that would inspire me. Because I've been sitting on this paint for a while, I kind of forgot about them. And I came across this channel that really set me straight about trying oil painting. The creator's name is Alpay. I'll link him in the description below. He's an amazing painter, and hearing him talk about the reasons you should just paint, how oil paint isn't as scary as people think, or how art doesn't have to be perfect or realistic really calmed my nerves. He also emphasized that art doesn't have to have a meaning or be realistic. And you don't have to draw it all yourself. There are so many tools artists use that doesn't require them to actually draw the image if all you want to do is focus on learning the painting process. I watched a lot of his videos, but the video that really inspired me was his video on painting a movie still or a vignette into one of his sketchbooks. He does this kind of painting for himself as a form of therapy. When all you do is paint things for other people, it's nice to paint something that makes you happy every so often, which is why he does it. This really excited me because I never thought to paint with oil in a sketchbook. In my own sketchbook, I've used watercolor, poster color, and even acrylic, which you have to gesso your paper to do, so why didn't I think I could do the same with oil? It's just paint. No daunting canvas that will go on a wall, no need to be perfect because this is just a sketchbook. All I had to do was paint. So this kind of lit a fire in me and I decided to finally try my oil paints again. And also to try his process. Pencil doesn't really come off gesso very well, so sketching it out was frustrating me. Alpay usually uses a charcoal transfer in which you take your image, apply charcoal to the back, and then trace it onto your painting surface. This was the first time I was trying this and it worked out amazingly. I think I'm going to be using this in the future as well. I chose this image of Dudley from Chapter 2, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, because I figured I'd have more opportunities to paint Harry later. This is the scene where he realizes that he's trapped inside the snake's enclosure. I'm going to work my way through the chapters and see how far I get, as it should be good practice, and it's pretty fun. I'm really enjoying the Harry Potter series, and I think having the movies and the stills are going to really help me in learning this painting process. But now to make things more difficult, I only used 5 colors: cadmium yellow, titanium white, cadmium red, French ultramarine, and lamp black. Probably not the ideal colors to use together. I still have a lot to learn about color theory. And I definitely have more colors I could have pulled from, but since I was successful doing it this way with my poster colors, I figured I'd try it with the oils. And it worked out pretty well, I think. The first brushstroke for me was the hardest. I was so scared. And of course I started with the eye, so even more so I was scared to mess it up. But after experimenting with a few brushes, I turned back to my tried and true Nic Pro Zero Round brush for all of Dudley actually. I thought I would be using flat brushes because that's what Alpay was using for most of his paintings, but this one seemed to flatten out with the paint, so it was almost like a flat brush, so it worked out pretty good. And then I moved on to a cheap flat brush for the background. As I painted, I started to remember the things about oil painting that frustrated me the most. Like how the brush would flatten out when you load paint onto it, how it doesn't hold a tip if the paint is too thick, which gives you less control, or how once certain colors contaminate each other, it's hard to fix it. But it doesn't seem as scary this time, and things were starting to come together right from the beginning. Having to only use water to clean my brush between colors was amazing and so freeing. I was getting the effect of oil paint, but just using water and paper towel, and I was having a lot of fun. I got into the zone and stayed up much later than I had anticipated to finish this, and I guess it came out pretty good. I still need to practice to make the background more abstract or more unfinished so it actually looks like a vignette, but I'm quite happy with the way it turned out. I learned a lot from watching Alpay paint, but more so by doing the art myself. You don't know what you can do until you apply yourself, which I'm so glad I got the courage to do, and I'm excited to start the next one. To be honest, this is the first oil painting I've done that actually looks good to me. And that's impressive, being that this is the first time I picked up oil since art school. No, really. The first time I popped paints out of these tubes was for this sketchbook painting, and I'm still staring at it, wondering if I really painted this myself. I would say it's the most realistic art piece I've ever done. I would also say it's one of the nicest pieces I've ever done, if you think realism is considered good art. When I was young, realism was the goal. Realism was good art to all the adults I showed my art to, so being that I'm in a place of learning and discovery, I'm quite shocked with the way this turned out. I'm also thinking it's a little bit of beginner's luck. I'm actually frightened about how the next one will come out. But I did learn a lot about the way oil paint behaves by doing this piece. Not sure why these things hadn't occurred to me before. I always prefer to work dark to light anyway, and unknowingly, oil paint works best that way in most situations. I also learned that oil paint isn't as hard as you think it is. There were things I didn't know which held me back, but as Alpay recommended, just try it. It's just paint. And once I got over my fears and did, those questions seemed to answer themselves. There is no right or wrong way to use a medium, and now I really understand that. And no, oil paintings do not need to be on a canvas. First oil paintings were done on walls or paper glued to wooden boards, so that daunting canvas isn't something I have to worry about anymore. Watching Alpay paint in his sketchbook really opened my eyes to the freedom a simple sketchbook can give you to try all sorts of mediums and styles without worrying about messing up. He also says, if you're worried about messing up, then you're doing something wrong. Well, I hope to get there one day, as I've got a lot of learning left to do, but for now, all I need to do is to just keep painting. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for staying and joining me on my evening art break. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, this art break is done. Bye guys!